Good morning, everyone. I hope you can all see me. I'm slightly new to this platform, um, so I'm just checking, and I think we're all good to go. So this webinar is being recorded. Just to let you all know, we have a slightly lower live audience count than expected. I think a few people have had problem accessing the link, but it is being recorded, so anyone who isn't able to make it now will be able to access via the link. So, good morning, everyone. Today we have a collection. We've got a collection of photographers, photographic agencies, and video-based agencies. Now, I'm going to explain slightly more about why they are the companies, the agencies, the people I've chosen to work with, and when I bring up the slides, I'll talk to you more about that. For those of you who don't already know me, I'm Oliver. I run Mango Marketing, and we help exactly the people I just listed to rank higher on Google. Now, I know SEO is something that is filling up all of your inboxes. I'm sure you're hearing countless sales deals offering you more and more SEO, and I know it can be frustrating, and I know it can be boring. That's why I'm keeping this short. I'm keeping this 20 minutes. And if you're not interested, we don't have to talk again. As I say, I'm recording this webinar live. It can be watched back. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I think, so we do have a chat running. As I say, it's a slightly lower live audience count. So I'm not going to hold a kind of question session at the end. It'll just be more as you go if you've got any questions, and I'll answer them when they're relevant. So I'm going to bring up the slides where I talk slightly more about what I'm hosting and what I'm kind of talking about in this webinar. So there are two main parts to it. The first one is the SEO strategy that I've found to work for photographers and photographic agencies and video-based agencies. I know I'm going to talk about slightly more about why those companies. And in the next part, I'm going to be talking about how we can future-proof your SEO. And I think this is a really interesting thing, and it's not something people are looking into at the moment. We're having what some people are calling the search revolution that is coming up. The internet's changing more than ever, the advances with AI. So I could be here forever talking about that, but I'm going to keep it brief, and I'm not going to expand too much on that. As I say, 20 minutes on the clock. Okay, so this graphic here is just kind of a representation of how websites are built. And this is kind of where I explain slightly more about why I work with kind of companies like yourself. So, for example, we've got loads of different features of a website, and every website is built differently. So some have more kind of a text-based approach. They've got a lot of blogs, they've got a lot of headers, content writing. But what's kind of significant about these photographers, I'm going to stop listing these, but what's kind of significant about these photography and videography websites is they've got a lot more image and video content. And I think it's quite important to look at how you're optimizing your website, because kind of the standard SEO rulebook you can't use for these special kind of niches like photographers, because photographers don't have as much text. They don't have paragraphs written on the website. For example, maybe a lawyer, an accountant, they might have blogs, they might have kind of how-to guides. Photographers, on the whole, they have got much more content. And that's what I'm going to talk about more, how we can optimize for that. And that's what kind of my agency, I think, specializes in. It works with people who have image and video content on their website, and we help to optimize that to the full. Now, I'm going to tell you how you can do this yourself. And that all starts with image SEO. I just want to apologize as well. I think these slides, I've just imported them into Vimeo, so they might be slightly misformatted. So apologies for any of that. I think just something wrong with the import. Okay, so something that we do in our agency is called ink tagging. Now, you can do this yourself. So image alt tagging is used for two reasons. The first reason is because it's used for screen readers. So people who are visually impaired that are looking at your website, they're going to use a screen reader, and the screen reader is going to read out what that image is. They're also used as a ranking factor for Google. And for example, if you go to a photographer's portfolio page, that page is, as I say, mainly made up of images. So optimizing those images is important. And that all comes down to image alt tagging. Now, what's important with image alt tagging is that we don't stuff it with keywords, keyword cramming. because it's used as a method for visually impaired people, for screen readers, we can't misuse that. But we also, I think it's quite an unfair thing that Google's kind of using it as a ranking factor, because originally it's been made for these screen readers. So anyway, this is something I do called ink tagging, and this is something you can apply to all of your images. So we start with describing what's in the image. Two hikers on a mountain in the Alps with blue sky in the background and snow covering the mountains. You know, obviously, if you've taken this photograph, or someone you're working with has taken this photograph, you can give a much better description as to what is in that image. The next thing we want to talk about is the name. It's really important in all your images to have your name tagged in there. So I've said here, shot by Oliver Hodgson from Mango Marketing, which specializes in. So I've got my company in there and I've got my name in there. Try and include both of them when tagging your images. And the next thing is to include your keywords. I'm going to talk slightly more about keywords later. Specializes in sports photography based in London. A location is in there as well, which is really important. So that's ink tagging, and I'm going to talk slightly more about it on this slide. This is how I see most images tagged if we look above. Either images aren't tagged at all, or they're tagged like this. Photography, lifestyle photography UK, lifestyle photography London, lifestyle photographer, lifestyle photography near me. Now there are two problems with this. Not only is it misusing it, for a screen reader this isn't doing anything, it's also keyword cramming. And if you can imagine, if you've got 30, 40 images on a page that are all tagged like this, then you're completely keyword cramming. What I like to imagine is, imagine your images are just the alt text written out, and all your images are tagged like this. You're definitely cramming your keywords if they were all written in kind of a text-based format. So things like that we want to avoid. If you look below, I've created an image tagging checklist. So the first thing I say is readable for screen readers. The next thing is follow IC or ink structure. So IC is image company keyword, but image name keyword, they're both the same. I used to call it IC, but now I kind of call it ink. And then we've got a unique tag for every image. Don't tag your images all as the same thing. That's going to lead to keyword cramming. That's going to lead to your page being penalized. So definitely avoid that. Keyword cramming, as I say, don't do what's happened above. Cram loads of keywords in, and include a location. So that's also really important. London, wherever you are based, wherever you want to target, include that. And I think the order is really important. A lot of people say to me here, they say, should we not include the keyword at the start? It doesn't matter. Google's reading the whole thing. It's not like a kind of header or a meta tag where they're kind of looking at the first bit, not looking at the rest, or they're kind of focusing on the first bit. All of this is going to all be read, and it's all going to be processed. So I think it's best, just for screen readers' sake, to put the description of the image at the start. The final thing is, these things, I think one of the most underestimated things is the length of the image tags. Many people just tag their images 3 or 4 words, and it doesn't have to be like that. They can be, this one above is 4 or 5 lines. They can be long image tags. They can be 75. I wouldn't exceed 125 characters, but it's important to know that length, the longer the better, I often say, and that's often quite not kind of in the typical SEO rulebook. Normally we tag images quite short, but the more description you can add in, the better. Obviously this is quite time consuming, so you don't have to tag. If you've got a portfolio page of 50 images, you haven't got to tag every single image, but try tag just over kind of 60-70% of those images, and it's just often better to just leave some of those images untagged. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is page size. Now, page size is a huge ranking factor in SEO, and it's a thing I see with photographers, video-based agencies, photo-based agencies. They've got a lot of photos on their website, so keeping that page size under our 5 megabyte limit is really important. Now, as I say in the next slide, Google uses a ranking factor, and so firstly, Google's technically using that as a ranking factor. It's running tests on your website, and it's seeing how long it takes to load. So you are going to be further down the list if your page is not loading in under Google's time frame. Also, just from a UX point of view, if you're going onto a website and it's not loading quick, it leads to a much higher bounce rate. So keeping that page size under 5 megabytes, keeping that load time to a good level is absolutely essential. Now, there are multiple ways we can do this. One is compressing images. Obviously, I work with photographers and they know how to compress images, and I'm much more particular about compressing images than me. So I'm not going to give you ways. There are tools you can use, but for kind of these photo and video based agencies, it's kind of up to you to tag your images. Compress those images. Obviously, you want to use a kind of more lossless form of compression. We don't want to be losing quality. And the second one is enable browser caching. Now, this can be quite complex unless your website is built on WordPress. So the cache is a small bit of storage in the CPU, and it's got a very small amount of storage, but it's super fast. And if you can enable your website to be loaded via the cache, then it's gonna decrease your website load time. Say it's about 5 seconds, it can come down to 200 milliseconds. The thing is with this, it can be done easily via a WordPress plugin. If you're not on WordPress, it's got to be done slightly more technically, and it's much more tricky. That's just the thing if you are on WordPress. But I think, quite a lot of I think especially with photographers, I see most of them are built on Squarespace and more of those kind of templates. I think Squarespace is the most popular, and it is possible on Squarespace, but it's got to be done technically. I just want to make a point here that if you are a kind of video-based agency, these same things apply to you. I should have made that point earlier. I do apologize about that. But tagging images, you can tag a video, you can compress a video, and it's all the same in terms of how Google looks at it and how it's being ranked. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is keywords. Now, this is a keyword strategy that I found to work. Okay, so take this pyramid here. What I want you to do for every page you've got is find a primary keyword. Let's say you're a food photographer in Birmingham. Okay, so your main keyword may be food photographer Birmingham. You're going to want to do research using tools like SEMrush to check that's a kind of, it's got a low difficulty, a higher search volume. But that's your primary keyword. And then what you want to do is start forming secondary or similar keywords. So once you've got food photography Birmingham, you don't want to put that in all of your image tags, because then we're going to be keyword cramming and your ranking isn't going to go anywhere. So buy a similar keyword. It could be commercial food photography in Birmingham or Birmingham food photography. They don't have to be completely changed. They can be similar keywords, hence why they're called similar keywords. So as long as it's relevant, it's got a high search volume and low competition, they are keywords you can use for your site. So you want to put your primary keywords in, obviously your H1 headers, your meta tags. But when you're looking at tagging images, it's important to not tag every image with the primary keyword, because then you're going to be cramming, and as I say, your website is going to be penalized in terms of its ranking. So once you've got these similar keywords, embed them through your image tags into the inc structure. So your keyword could be food photography Birmingham, and in your tags you can put commercial food photographer, photographer for food. Remember, a keyword can just be reworded, and that's seen as kind of a different keyword for Google. Okay, so that's kind of wrapping up my SEO strategy plan. Now, this is just a kind of recap of where you want to be implementing these keywords. So obviously we've talked about the image alt text that applies to video, any on-page content, any paragraphs, obviously H1 headers are essential, meta tags and meta titles, also putting your keywords in there. Okay, so now we're going to move on to kind of future-proofing your strategy. Now, as I say, where am I at now? I'm at 12:16, so it's a slightly shorter section, but those things I've just talked about are a kind of a slice of what you need to do for your overall SEO. But if you can start applying some of those things now, they're kind of quick changes. I know image tagging take a while, but if you can, I think keyword cramming is such a big thing I see among photographers. So if you can kind of make sure you're not doing that and successfully targeting keywords, then that's perfect. Okay, so future-proofing your strategy. The internet's changing in many ways, and AI and smart speakers are how I think is leading the search revolution. So smart speakers are becoming much more publicized. They're everywhere. And I think we're going to continue to see that in the future. Now, just a little heads up, this is slightly coming from where I think the internet's going to go, and it's not, obviously I can't predict exactly what's going to happen. But smart speakers are becoming much more popular. They're built into our phones, they're built into our tablets, they're built into our computers. Some are built into fridges, they're built into cars, they're coming into everything. And that's really important for how we search, because people are no longer looking, they are, but in the future they won't be looking up photographers in Wales. They'll be asking their smart assistant that. Or anyway, that's how I think it's going to change. And obviously artificial intelligence as well. How can we use AI to our advantage as a photographer, a filmmaker, or an agency of that sort? So VSO is something that I offer, and it's voice search optimization. Currently, only 3% of UK businesses are VSO ready. Now, what is VSO? VSO is about optimizing for a smart speaker, optimizing for an Alexa, Google Home, Siri. So if you ask your Alexa, pizza near me, one website is going to come up. And my aim is to get those businesses to be the reply of that smart assistant. Now, the thing is, it's such an untapped market that it's not too hard to do at the moment, unlike SEO, which is much more crowded, much more popular. So I just kind of want to raise a bit of awareness to VSO, and I think it kind of is quite a clear path that the internet is changing in that way. And obviously people are always going to be searching on their phones, computers, but smart assistants are rising much more in popularity. I mean, as I say here, over 50% of people in the UK have a smart speaker. Artificial intelligence as well. So I've seen photographers in particular use AI for all sorts, and I think the main thing has got to be blog writing. Now, some photographers like blogs, some despise them, but whatever you think of them, being able to target a particular keyword in your blog, and that being a whole page, is good for so many reasons. Your domain authority will increase, and it won't just affect that page's rank on Google. Your whole kind of credibility on Google will see an improvement. So in terms of tools for blog writing, I think ChatGPT is kind of the mainstream one. But there are all sorts of tools. Jasper as well is something that I've seen a lot of photographers use. So it kind of learns your writing style, unlike GPT. So it will write a blog in your style, if you like. So as I say, blogs can now be written with a targeted keyword whilst targeting popular search queries, and AI content will be published by Google if it meets the quality guidelines. I think that's quite a big thing, because for a while we didn't know, is this AI content going to get published by Google? Or is there going to be a point where they stop indexing these AI written pages? Now, I definitely don't recommend kind of writing something with AI, copying it, pasting it into your website. Or I think most people change it before they put it in. But I think it's also quite important to know that at the moment, AI content is being published. So we can continue writing blogs with tools such as AI. And in the near future, I don't think that's going to change. I think there was a big thing for a while. Is Google not going to publish this content? But Google is now, and they've written it in their guidelines that they will. So it seems that won't change for the future. Also for SEO audits, this is another thing you could use AI for. Find your weak points using GPT. Find your weak points in SEO. So you can give it your domain link, and it will filter through and give you where you need to improve your SEO. You can also use it for things such as image tagging, the structure I talked about a bit early on. You could give it this formula and it can start tagging your images. So my point is, there are so many ways, and I'm not going to get thoroughly into that here. I think 1222 is just about where I wanted to end it. As I say, I'm sorry this has been such a short webinar. I appreciate you all much for joining. And I hope to talk to you all soon. Thank you very much.